No one believed me when I said that a new Fromsoft game could be revealed at the Game Awards, and I take an unreasonable amount of pride in predicting the news. I predicted something accurately, for once. But if someone had told me beforehand that this is what we would see, I would have called 911 because I would assume that either me or they were currently having a stroke. But multiple weeks have passed and I have yet to see headlines about the news being a collective hallucination. So let's talk about Elden Ring Nightreign, shall we? As you can see, this video is titled "Watch this video if you are unsure about Elden Ring Nightreign." But there are different ways you can be unsure about the game, all of which we will tackle now. Firstly, you might not know what Elden Ring Nightreign really is, so we will talk about it, especially on the gameplay and gameplay loop side of things. Secondly, you might still be unsure even though you know what the game roughly is, you would need some further information. We will get to that one. And lastly, what if this game really isn't for you? What can a Souls-like superfan do if this is a game they end up skipping? Will you have to cry in a corner like Mikula when I tell him he can't fuck any more of his brothers? Or is there a silver lining somewhere in the dark of the night? This will be the topic of chapter 3. These are all the chapters for today's video, timestamps for the chapters are on screen, let's go. So what is Elden Ring Nightreign? Chances are you actually have some kind of wrong version of Nightreign in your mind when you imagine the game, so let's set things straight. But if you have watched Vati's video and read the accompanying articles, you can basically skip to chapter 2. I'm not gonna pretend like I have some inside scoop when I just don't. It's not like I didn't try though, but for some reason Miyazaki never replied when I sent him pictures of my feet. Elden Ring Nightreign is a fortnight and the Binding of Isaac had a baby born from a highly questionable affair. It is also a standalone title, which means you will not have to own Elden Ring to play Elden Ring Nightreign. There will also be no battle pass or premium currency. You will pay for the game once, with the game not even being full price, and that is it. But what does the gameplay look like? Well, it is a roguelike, and roguelikes are games like Binding of Isaac, or Hades, or Rogue, in which you go on run after run, every time restarting from scratch until you die, and only parts of your progression are carried over for all the future runs. And normally, each roguelike also features randomly generated rooms and locations, like having 1000 puzzle pieces that rearrange themselves in a new way each run. But how does it work for Nightreign? Well, at the start of each run in Nightreign, you decide whether you want to play alone or you want to play with 2 other real people, with no crossplay between platforms, meaning that everyone must own a game on the same platform if you want to play with them. Playing with just one friend in a normal duo co-op session is not possible because of literally no reason. Thank you, Fromsoft. Once you've decided with whom you want to play, you choose between 8 different characters, kind of like starting classes in Elden Ring. You got the longsword guy, the mage, the buff tank, etc, etc. But when it comes to gameplay, every one of these characters has their own ultimate and ability as well. So for example, this longsword guy called Wilder can, for example, use a claw shot that can pull you towards an enemy or vice versa as their ability, and their ultimate is a close-up explosion shot attack thing. Each character also starts off with different stats, like the normal classes in a Souls-like, and they also have passive traits, like for example one character has a bloodbound sidestep instead of a dodge roll, and another has a Sekiro deflect mechanic. Since there are 3 people in your team and 8 different classes, there's already some build variety involved when it comes to who each of you are gonna choose. Because even though even the melee knights can pick up mage staffs as loot within the run itself, their abilities and ultimates will forever be unique to them. So let's then go over the run itself. You have picked your class, you're dropped into the map via the battle bus eagle that we see here. Now what? Well, you land in a random location in the plains and ruins of Limveldt, an alternate reality version of Limgrave from Elden Ring, and you will spend the next 3 in-game days there, if you survive long enough, that is. Limveldt will feature many different versions on repeat playthroughs, so that means there will probably be around 10 billion different poison rot swamp locations. And if you've looked at the trailer, yeah, things look different here. I don't remember magma in Limgrave, or this swampy area here, or this Chuck E. Cheese we see off in the distance here. Once you've landed, you run around at 150% speed and kill and loot enemies. The loot will have the rarities you might be familiar with, like common, uncommon, rare, legendary, that sort of stuff. This loot also may include some active and passive buffs, so if you're a mage and you only have a common staff, you might still want to switch to the legendary Zweihander so you stand a chance against the foes of the night. There are no stat requirements or weight penalties for carrying equipment like in normal soulslike, so you can pop off as much as you like. But there are level requirements, and you will reach those by leveling up throughout the run, which you do for example by killing enemies. So you start at level 1 in each run and then quickly level up to be able to wield even the strongest weapons. As the day grows older, the circle around Limveld grows smaller and smaller and goes towards the center of the map, where a random boss will await you at the end of each day, meaning at the end of 15 minutes. If you survive, the boss encounter the next day begins, and if you die, your friends can revive you by hitting you. If you and your friends die at the same time, however, the round is over for real and you spawn again at the round table halt, where you'll be able to advance the quests of characters such as the characters you choose at the start of the run, so basically the side stories and main stories of the game. And also use a currency that carries over after you die called Merc. You can use those for emotes and skins and most importantly relics, which are permanent upgrades and are probably the most important things to spend Merc on. If you survive day 1, you'll be dropped in the same version of Limveld for day 2 and can now take on enemies that were too strong on day 1, such as field bosses for example. Now is a good time to mention that this game has returning bosses from other Fromsoft games, such as the Centipede Demon, the Duke's Dear Freya or the Nameless King. Many are, for quite a good reason, skeptical when it comes to this. I see it this way: if they take a flawed boss like the Centipede Demon and actually redo its moveset and make it fun, I 100% have no problem. If they were to only copy-paste the bosses from previous games, questionable hitboxes and all, then I think it's lazy game design and a missed opportunity. But I think the bosses will have changes, as it is reported that the Centipede Demon can split off parts of its body that then fight independently. For example, I could also see the second phase of the Nameless King turning into a 2v3 fight instead, with him not killing his dragon but them fighting independently as well. At least I think that could be fun. Anyway, if you survive day 1 and day 2, day 3 will end in a different way. Instead of a randomized boss waiting at the center of each circle, one of 8 different Night Lords is there instead. Which one it will be no surprise to you, as you have to choose which Night Lord to take on prior to the first day. New Night Lords will be unlocked eventually, so you can choose them at the start of each run. So we will all try to take on the same Night Lord in our first session, but gradually we will be able to choose between that one and the new ones we unlock. One of the Night Lords is the Cerberus looking beast called Gladius. So these are the most important aspects of Nightreign, and now you should have an idea of what it is like to play it. Now some of you will maybe feel relief and will be like, hell yeah, it's a roguelike Elden Ring co-op experience, that's awesome. And some of you are still unsure about whether this game is not for you or not. This next part of the video is for you, however. When it comes to roguelikes, I don't really like them. I've certainly enjoyed Binding of Isaac a lot, but other roguelikes like Enter the Gungeon, sorry for catching strays, just fell flat for me. I need roguelikes to allow to combine items in the wildest of ways and have the opportunity to basically have a run that is extremely broken. I'm not sure if Elden Ring Nightreign will go for that to the extent that I would love. On the other hand, the co-op aspect is reminiscent of Monster Hunter, and I do love the repetition in those games because just fighting with your mates is so much fun, and if Nightraign's co-op feels like that, that might end up being worth a lot. Either way, it is still understandable if some people are a bit skeptical about whether the gameplay will click for them. Another good reason to be skeptical is if you play these types of games for the exploration lore. I myself played Elden Ring at a snail's pace, but that led to me being able to really explore every square centimeter of the lands between. Like, did you know how good I am at Elden Ring GeoGuessr? Anyway, so yeah, only having 15 minutes per day sounds a bit like not how I would normally play games or FromSoft games, and of course that comes with the genre, but I totally get why some might be turned off by those gameplay mechanics. So if you're unsure, then you're kind of in luck because you will be able to try out the game for free if you are lucky. There will be a server test in February for which people can already sign up for since a couple of days, and for some reason it is a first come first serve principle, so sorry if if you've only heard about this from me, because then it's probably too late. But you will know soon enough if you got in or not. With the test itself being in February, once that is over, you will either have played the game yourself, or you will at least have watched more footage online from content creators you trust. More than me. While these kinds of playtests are not representative of the full game, you will at least have an idea about whether you like the game and actually want to buy it or not by the time February is here. Okay, so let's say it's February, the network test is over and you finally know all you need to know about the game. What if you really come to the conclusion that this game will be a skip for you? When can you expect the next Fromsoft game, for example? In 3 years? In 5 years? No, I think it will be earlier than that. You will not have to fret and cry and wait for Silksong instead and then cry some more. You will probably have a good game more catered towards your taste, served up by Fromsoft themselves at least by the end of 2026 or early 2027. How do I know this? Well, I don't, but it is clear to me that this is as much of a side project as Armored Core 6, for example, was. And if we go by their normal schedule, a quote-unquote normal soulslike from Miyazaki comes around every 3 or so years. So with Miyazaki saying he himself is working on multiple projects and Nightreign being neither of them, I think it is safe to say that we will get some Miyazaki magic sooner than we might think. That said, I do implore you to try the game if you are unsure about whether this is for you or not. All of this, by the way, sounds like I'm critiquing Fromsoft for something new, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, even though I myself am not 100% sold on the game yet, I do like that they are mixing things up, and I do like that Miyazaki is letting other talented developers handle projects like that by making them the director. It is this experimentation that keeps Fromsoft from getting stale, and knowing them, many roguelikes in the future might end up looking back on Nightreign and being inspired to incorporate some of its design elements into their games, because Fromsoft does seem to inspire whole parts of the industry. And if you don't want to wait for more Souls-likes, there are some Souls-likes that are out now that can easily stand on their own. And I want to make a video on those in February if I get to it, so stay tuned for that, I guess. My train of thought kind of ends here. Let me know what you think about Nightreign and subscribe if you want more stuff like this. And now here are my patrons. You too could become a patron or YouTube member if you choose to do so. Use your free will to your heart's content in that regard. And I'll be seeing you next time.